The TerrAdaptor.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with anything from Jurassic Park, but the TerrAdaptor seems a very versatile piece of kit. What is the TerrAdaptor?
So the TerrAdaptor is a AHD, an artificial high direction. It's a technical tripod system. It's modular, made of multiple components that you can build into various different configurations. So it's a step beyond the traditional tripod that is kind of 3 legs that extend out and have a locked head position. With this product, we can create many, many different structures. And the idea of an AHD is that we are creating a skyhook, a point above, ground level that we can position where we want to for best safety, efficiency, line management, usually to clear an edge or an obstacle. But as a tool, it's amazingly versatile, really kind of fun to work with because it's so adjustable. And one of the key features we have with it is an articulating head that has main plate with articulating brackets that allow us to change the leg angles from a narrow footprint tripod all the way out to a horizontal beam anchor.
Well, that's super exciting. So I think we should head up to the gantry there and we should see it in action and go into the features of the TerrAdaptor in more detail. We've moved upstairs here in our training centre in Blackpool, and Guy is going to take us through the TerrAdaptor. Amazing giant piece of kit with so many different applications. Guy, talk us through the TerrAdaptor from head to toe.
So, welcome to the TerrAdaptor. This is our technical modular tripod system. We, as I said earlier, refer to these as AHDs, artificial high directions. So what we're talking about was having a skyhook where there is no anchor. So we're building a structure. The key feature that we talked about earlier is this adjustable head unit. This is unique in the industry in terms of what it can deliver, how it works. We have a main plated system with articulating brackets, which are these orange pieces. These pieces are pinned, so they are fully adjustable with multiple hole positions that are all identified by letters. So this gives us a range of kind of leg positions from near vertical out to the horizontal, so we can create kind of beam anchors, horizontal braces. The lettering setup on this allows us to effectively create kind of playbooks, if you like, on configurations. So training being a massive part of anything in the rescue world, rope access, confined space, so you understand the equipment you're using, so you can build these playbooks, build these kind of identifiable kind of systems that you can call out when you come to a scenario or a rescue. So this head unit, articulating points, the pins are kind of captive on a bearing system, so we can kind of pull them out. We've got a central pivot pin, and then we release the outside two to actually change the articulation. Mm-hmm. The rear bracket is a symmetrical bracket. That's typically used on the rear leg. The front legs, they're asymmetrical brackets. So as we've got it set at the minute, both of those brackets are pointing the same way, which gives us a stable footprint. Everything's completely evenly balanced. What we can do is we can flip one or both of these brackets around, which can then impact the footprint slightly. But in some setups where we might want a wide spanned front leg, or we actually want to kind of compact the system and we need tube extensions so that we can bring the head position down, if we had those brackets set symmetrically, the tubes would clash. So offsetting one gives us the opportunity to have those tubes cross over. So it's kind of quite a clever, unique feature. When we get into beam anchors with these as well, we can have that as a single leg beam anchor where one of these grey perforated tubes is passing through both of those brackets when they're horizontally set, and we extend out with orange tubes. Or we can offset again and make a double leg beam anchor so we can achieve greater spans for a 2-person load.
And this is modular, isn't it? The tubes separate out.
So the whole thing gets built and adjusted to suit the terrain, the environment, the space. We talk about footprint a lot, but we're working our way down. So the grey perf tubes, these are all numbered 1 to 9. That gives you a visual identifier when you're building this system. They interact inside the orange tubes and the orange brackets, so the colour differentials give you an indicator of where things fit, so it makes life easier. We can extend through, we've got a lot of adjustability with these tubes and the positioning. Then we get into the gold tube, or the orange tubes, sorry. These have 2 positions and an X or Y. So where we've got the numbered holes on the grey tubes that give you some adjustability, this gives you even more control in terms of leg length. So on uneven terrain or in a confined area, it gives you that kind of variation that you can achieve most scenarios and most setups. Typically, it's grey into the head unit, orange as a spacer between another grey. The orange can kind of float anywhere within that system. Having it a little higher gives you a little bit more bending resistance in the legs, which is great for strength, but we can get this thing extended pretty high in a tripod configuration.
And that seems to me to be one of the key advantages over other tripods, is that flexibility that you've got there, the range of height, the range of angle as well.
Yeah, so traditional tripods are relatively singular in their purpose and their design. We've set this one up to be a tripod over an opening. So this is a confined space rescue situation. What we can do is we can adapt the angles of the rear legs, set these as more aggressive stances that would be used at a leading edge, either to clear a handrail like this, get over a cliff, or some other obstruction. So we've got a lot of capability and versatility in how we set it up.
And then we get down towards the feet. I've seen that there's different variations of how you can foot this as well. Just for the video as well, we haven't opened the hatch yet, which is why we're not in PPE. I'm going to get out of the way in a moment, and we're going to do that. But we've got the closed hatch, so we can in a controlled environment. But the different feet gives us different anchoring solutions as well. So you talk us through that.
So what we've got fitted to the TerrAdaptor at the minute is one of the articulated feet. They're a nice product for a surface area, particularly where you want to spread the load.
Looks like a ball and joint.
Yeah, it's a ball and joint. The foot itself can be rotated. You've got various points in there for rigging, tying off, pinning through. So it's a very versatile piece of kit in terms of how you can secure it, make it good. That is one of the accessory parts. The standard part that comes with the tripod system is called our Rochefort, which is actually an extremely versatile product that will kind of lay onto most surfaces, hard, soft, spreads, transfers, can work over many angles. You've got rigging points that are rated within the foot for tie-offs, anchoring, and a nice little hidden feature here is a hook. So that hook allows you to kind of clip over an edge. That could capture on a steel beam. You could then put a leg into compression so it's pinched and holding on to something. But it becomes an extremely kind of versatile piece of kit. Another foot is our Talon. So the Talon is something that works really well with hard ground, soft ground. In the dirt, you can properly bury this in. The shape and the design of this is really lovely for actually going over structure, be it scaffold tube, tubing, box section, lash it on. We've set up the articulated feet on the grate floor here, but that will sit over the grate and bed in really nicely.
How that would fit really well into that.
Yeah, and then you tie it on. So it's a really versatile foot, extremely kind of functional.
And these feet all come with it?
So the Talon and the articulated feet are accessories. The standard kit comes with the Rochefort, which will actually work for most scenarios.
As you say, it's got that hook element. Yeah, I was thinking because of your history at Harken as well. Like I've seen pictures of this rigged up on a ship, where you might actually have to put one arm out and hook it onto a girder or something, rather than being able to get 3 feet onto the floor.
Yeah. So the idea behind this product is that what you've got is not just a single device. You've got something you can fully adapt, but within the kit, the standard kit, you can build a tripod system of varying height. We can also separate this system out and have this as an A-frame, so just 2 legs, and a gin pole or a monopole, which is 1 leg. So in effect, you could build 2 totally separate AHD anchor structures to rig different setups. So the kit is versatile enough to be changed between different configurations of a tripod or an A-frame or a monopole to suit where you're working, or to be able to create kind of multiple points. So that becomes quite an advantage, as well as the orientation that you can put this through.
And this system, it's bigger, it actually weighs about the same or a bit lighter than a standard tripod that you carry in.
Yeah.
In as well.
I mean, we pack this all away into 3 bags. So we've got leg bags where all the leg tubes are stored, and I usually keep my hobble straps in there. And then there's a head bag that the head unit sits in, and I keep all of the pins, the anchor points, and the other elements. And the anchor points that I'm talking about, so this is what we call our lash ring. So this is an anchor that we can fit onto a grey perf tube anywhere. Right now it's set beneath our lockhead winch as an anchor point to stop the winch from climbing or sliding up the leg. That could be an anchor point in an anchor frame setup, which is what we've got here, for a hauling system or your backup device. Equally, that lash ring could sit on the top of one of the legs extending through and could be a tie-off point for supporting and guying the system so that it doesn't topple and it's nice and stable. Or over an edge, we could have this as an aggressive stance and we want the anchor points as high as we can or clear from the frame. So that gives us capabilities. This yoke up at the top here, we've got a 36 kilonewton rated push pin. The capacity to put a sheave for wire rope systems or hang kind of pulleys directly onto the system, as well as create other kind of points. We also have rounded holes on the top brackets in the grey plates, which are rigging points. So there's one on each of those plates.
They're rigging points, right?
We do avoid any anchors into these holes. These holes are sharp edged, but they're designed for the pin. We don't want anything going through those. But for the rigging, for the setup, we've got enough kind of anchors within play. By putting the lash rings into high points, we can create more systems. And then there is one other nice product, which is an accessory, but it's called our quick lash. So this is basically that movable anchor point or an afterthought anchor point that can be put in. So
cool.
This will pin onto a grey leg.
Yeah, you've got another anchor point straight away.
So if I was putting this as maybe an aggressive tripod system at a leading edge, that might be the anchor point that I set to create a tensioned tether line for the tripod so that it's stable, it can never go forward. Equally, that's when you've built this system and realize that you have to make a change or you want something within it, you could set this inside, outside at any point on the perf tube. So it's a really quick kind of plug and play
Fantastic.
anchor.
And if we get the camera in, we see we've rigged up here and you've brought your wingman with you, all rigged up, ready to go off the system here. So we can maybe see that 4-to-1 in action while we're here.
So I've set this one up as a 5-to-1 with a redirect, which means that if this were our casualty or our load, we want the control at the head where we are, where the rescue operator is. But with that hauling system,
so simple,
super light,
so simple.
Everything defaults to lock, so it's super safe. And then the tailing on this, really smooth, fully open. I can block, but you've got a controllable system that allows you to feather the descent. And as I mentioned earlier, this is kind of single-handed operatable. Maybe my system's not perfect for showing that right now, but it's one of the key features that really kind of works.
Guy, you set up the TerrAdaptor in a standard tripod configuration many of us would recognise, but you mentioned earlier about being able to put it into an aggressive position and its adaptability. I wonder if you could just show us how that works. By the magic of the TV, we will fast forward that, and then we'll come back and talk about how that works in more detail.
Sure. So we've changed the configuration to a more aggressive lazy leg tripod system, which is intended to give us a better anchor point and range over an edge. In this instance, we've got handrail. So talking you through the scenario, starting here, we've got some rope protection in place just to protect our rope on these edges. It could be rock, it could be sharp steel work. It's a critical thing to include. Coming up to the head, we're using a double pulley, keeps everything nice and tracked and aligned because we're coming up and over. There is a debate here about secondary systems, whether they want to be independent, lowerable. That's not something I'm getting into today because it really depends on the scenario, and we're demonstrating here. But both our lines are backed up. We've used the quick lash as an anchor point behind, so that should there be a failure on this pin, then we've got a secondary system in place. We've gone for a slightly wider leg stance to give us more range to get better stability and also clear this handrail. We can go further and adapt leg heights as well according to the terrain. So if we were on a slope, then we can adapt to all of that. Hobbles are still in place just to keep the feet nice and stable so that the structure is all locked in. Talking back from the front end, we're using the quick lash again as part of our guide system. So this is a tension system to stop any kind of movement of this structure as we apply load. Once we apply load onto this system, there will be a forward force, particularly as we're going over an edge. So what becomes a key factor in all of this is resultant forces. So this is kind of a bigger talking point. And when we're going down the route with AHDs, this is where stepping away from a traditional tripod becomes far more critical to have training, understanding of the forces, directional forces, how to manage and make the structure secure, because this is only as strong and as good as we set it up. So resultant force is a big learning point for most people, which is a combination of the load paths in the ropes, how that then affects the force angle on the anchor point. And that can be dictated by kind of the position you are over the edge. It can be dictated by kind of the actual traverse of an edge where a rescue litter attendant might be pushing out. What we're aiming for is the resultant force acting within the footprint of this structure. That is kind of our safe area. But again, there's training for that, and that is where something like this product is kind of comes into its own, because you learn all the different scenarios and all the different configurations and the science behind it. So to tie this back, we've used the wingman. This is obviously an adjustable system, so we can pull the tension on. When we've done that, we tie it off. That's to make it nice and secure so that we don't get any slip. Once the load gets applied onto the tripod system, the front legs will go into compression, because what we've set up is called a deviation system or a redirect system. Previously, we had the winch mounted on the leg. All of the forces were acting through the legs in compression downwards, and it was a stable structure. Once we start lifting on this, the back leg is going to go light. So we've used the Talon foot down here to actually kind of grip into the grating. So that's nice and secure and stable. The wingman is just pulling this back, engaging that rear leg into the floor, and it's going to keep us upright and stop the TerrAdaptor from going forward. You sometimes need to look at kind of additional side supports in this, depending on kind of how and where you are. But the wider we can set the front feet, the greater the footprint, the more the stability in the lateral forces. So moving back, not tripping over my lead. We've got a twin line system set up. So we've got main anchors down at the bottom, We've got a rigging plate. We've got 2 lines that will keep tension at all times, and I've got both of those lines running through the clutches, which are then set to lock and hold. From the clutches, we can create a hauling system. What we have done here is a simple system, so it's a 3-to-1. I'm using the Ninja Multi-Ascend as a rope grab, 1 on each line, and then I've threaded one of our Apex Direct 1.1s, which fits nicely through the shackle, so that's become my hauling system. So with this, I'm able to kind of manage both lines at once, which means that our backup and our primary line are both sharing the load, but should there be a failure on either line, we've still got one that's engaged, so we should see 0 kind of impact to the casualty and the rescue attendant. So everything's set up, we've got the tripod in place, we've got our tension guy line back, hauling system is built, all of our backups are set and in place. So all we're missing now is Matt. Where's Matt? Can we start?
So, at last, they finally let me loose on a piece of equipment, and I'm tied to this thing. Where you go.
What we'll do now, I've connected both these hauling systems together just for ease because it's one person. So you can hear the clutch engaging. It's doing its thing, capturing the rope. And then resetting, super easy with the Ninja. So the beauty of a twin system is that you're keeping both lines equally tight. Right, we will stop there.
Thanks, Guy.
That's a good position. You can see how easily the system works, how stable the structure was. All of these positions give us a lot of room to work within the hauling system. Normally this would be a team of 4 to 6 people, so we're doing okay.
Well, we've had a fabulous time here in the kit room with Guy and the team from Harken. As you can see, it's an amazing piece of kit, and they finally let me loose on it. So, until next time, I'll see you on the next edition of the kit room. Okay, you let me down now, Guy. Guy? Guy?